Welcome to Higher Caliber.
I've learned that.
Yeah.
Throughout the years. Well, happy almost St. Patty's Day. By the time this thing airs, it'll be St. Patty's Day.
Nice.
So
nice.
Appreciate you celebrating a Catholic holiday.
Yep.
Very nice of you.
Happy Green Day.
A lot of people don't know that St. Patrick was not from Ireland. He was from Britain.
Mm-hmm.
Britannia. He got captured in I believe he got like smuggled and then sold to Ireland, and then it was all paganism at the time, and he came back and started spreading Christianity, and so everybody thinks we celebrate some pale skinned redheaded guy.
Yeah,
probably didn't look like that at all, I would say, but it was like, I'm gonna get the year wrong because I suck with the years, but it was like 400. The year 400, does that seem?
Probably.
When
not exactly
Roman Empire, I don't know.
Not exactly the route I would have went, but I'm just saying,
What route would you go?
I would have laid low and not been merciless.
Not come back?
Death. Yeah. I'd have just survived off those potatoes. And
these guys are heathens. I'm not going back there.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah. So
can you imagine going through all that just to have millions and millions of people lie about you and some snake story?
Right.
Like the rest of ever.
They expelled the snakes from Ireland.
Yeah.
Or they were just never there to begin with.
Yeah. With your magic stick.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I just thought it was funny when I was looking it up that the Americans started celebrating St. Patty's Day way before it was like formally celebrated and recognized in Ireland.
Well, yeah,
they're Irish immigrants. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't just Americans, but I feel real douchey. The actual like people from Ireland, like watching us just make fools of ourselves.
There's a lot of holidays like Christmas too. And St. Patty's Day and Valentine's Day. There's a lot of holidays that if it wasn't for the American consumerism and Americans' continuous need to drink in excess,
right,
they would never be holidays in America or global holidays at all. It would never go off the ground. St. Patty's Day is one of those days.
Yeah. There'd be like 4 holidays.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Christmas might be a bad example. That one was kicking pretty good for a while before consumerism, before the credit card.
I agree. It was just more religiously. It was more religiously oriented.
Yeah.
Like hard shifted to consumer.
Like Easter is the biggest example.
Yeah.
Where we don't talk about Jesus. We talk about
that rabbit that lays eggs.
Yeah. The rabbit that lays eggs.
Yeah.
I told my oldest girl the other day, it's not about eggs and bunnies. It's about Jesus. So we're making Jesus cookies. She's like, okay.
Yeah.
I ask her all the time, I'm like, do you want to learn about taxes yet?
Yeah.
And she's like, no.
Time to balance a checkbook.
But if somebody stole from you, you would get mad about that, right?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah. I'm like, what if it was the government? She's like, what's the government? And then she runs off. I can't. She's not old enough yet.
The rage will funnel up in her when she earns an accomplishment. And
that's got to be it, right?
And you take 49% of it.
Yeah.
And just consume it in front of her or give it to somebody who did not earn it. And then all of a sudden,
I try subtle ways like that. Like you've heard of like dad tax or mom tax or whatever.
Yeah.
But all they think of is like, oh, dad just took my jelly bean. I don't know what taxes are.
Yeah.
I can't get it through to him yet. Well, 5's a good age to learn about taxes, I think. I think you have to get your first paycheck and be like, this is how much you would have made. Mm-hmm. This is how much you took home.
I think it is really, when it comes to taxes and kids, they really need to see it's not just that they need to experience it getting taken from them. They need to witness the authority that took it from them, wasting it.
Bingo.
Yes. They need to see you take it over to the fat neighbor waste. Kid who is not doing good and be like, here's my daughter's jelly beans. And then just watch through the window as you have no power or control over the assets you earned being robbed from you and fed to Fat Willie next door.
If you're going to look at Willie, look at that camera when you're getting mad.
Fat Willie.
Dude, I can't stop thinking of everything through the lens of taxes. I really can't.
Me too. Every day.
Every single day. And I really cannot stop. I just feel obsessed, but I'm just, every time I hit a pothole, I'm like, or I could have paid somebody to fix that, but all my money went to somebody who's supposed to fix that.
No, you did pay somebody to fix that. They just didn't.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But there's an ongoing joke that libertarians hate roads because everything goes back to like, how would we get our roads done? Libertarians are like, screw the roads. So there's like in the meme culture, I should say, that libertarians are pissed off at roads the whole time.
Uneducated libertarians who have that anarchist bent in them don't understand the need for infrastructure. But
it's not even
the majority
libertarians. It's people's perception of libertarians because all they talk about is taxes and roads.
Right. Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
That's the first thing I started the conversation with was taxes and roads.
Right. Most libertarians believe in privatizing infrastructure maintenance.
Like a toll.
Exactly. That way it's, made sure of. So
if you're driving on it and you have to pay somebody to maintain that section of road, private company, I'd be cool with it.
Yeah.
And then you have a grievance with one company when the road's messed up.
Yeah. Or like a statewide or national wide subscription service to roads that ensures that your roads are maintained 24/7, 7 days a week. I'm just spouting out silly table ideas, but something like that ensures it. But that money is, for instance, never allowed to be stacked on a pallet and put on a B-52 and flown over to Ukraine.
What?
And just like rained all over corrupt politicians over there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that brings me to why I hate state parks.
Yeah.
Not state parks.
Smooth transition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
National parks. I'm paying for a park that I'm never going to go to.
Yeah.
And then when people hear that, they're like, well, what about the wolves and the bears and stuff? I'm like, pay me an entry fee to go look at them and I'll gladly pay it. But you're going to charge me. Did I say pay me? Charge me. They're still going to charge me a fee, even though I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
So what if I told you that I don't have a problem with maintaining balanced ecosystems or national parks at all? My issue is that if we cut the amount of taxes that we tax everybody down to 1/3 what we tax everybody, that's still enough money to maintain all of that. We're just spending out of control and giving all of our money away to foreign aid, foreign adversaries, everything else on the side and blowing it down the toilet with everything. Give 2/3 of everybody's taxes back. You still make enough money to maintain and repair all the infrastructure, pay for massive government sponsored public works programs to put people to work and maintain the parks and a million other things. Also trim out like 2/3 of the unnecessary government employees.
Yeah. They'll find a new job in the private sector.
Yeah, they can deliver pizza.
Well, I think the taxes thing really should make people more angry because, like, on the surface, it makes them angry. Like, why are we sending all this money to Ukraine? Or if you're uneducated, you say the Ukraine, but whatever. I'm not going to split hairs. And that's the most obvious one. But you have no idea until you start digging how wasteful. Anybody who's ever worked for a government agent or a federal government agency knows how wasteful they are.
The best psyop that ever happened that absolutely nobody saw coming was bombarding the American people, especially Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, all of them, with so much demonstrous government overreach and government waste that they eventually tuned out to it because they couldn't process. It's too much to keep up with. Exactly. Couldn't process it. And now it's gotten to a point where it's like your neighbor who sunbathes naked in his backyard. You don't want to deal with it, but you can't do anything about it. So now he does it on Tuesdays. So you just don't mow on Tuesdays. It just is what it is.
Yeah. Well, like 33 trillion or whatever our national debt is now. That's like monopoly money to everybody.
Yeah.
Like, because there shouldn't be that much money.
Yeah. It's valueless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when the printer go, brrr, it's like, what's another billion, trillion?
Yeah.
Well, it does not compute.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to be a guy who wakes up every morning and gets on this podcast every time and goes, taxes. And everybody's like, well, we got to pay it. It's the price we pay for a civilized society.
Right. Exactly. And that has been the argument since Roosevelt.
Yeah.
It's this taxes are the fee you pay to live in structure in a polite functioning society, right. But they just keep taking more and more. That's not really what taxes are. Taxes are what the government adversary uses to pick winners and to invest into what they want to succeed.
The government can't produce they can't make their own money. So they need,
right. And they can't control value.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, trading off those treasury notes
mm-hmm. for
Fed dollars, the only leverage they have or collateral they have is their ability to tax citizens. I mean, that's literally the only thing.
Well, see, this is always the argument against socialists, and they're just too dumb to understand it. Everybody on YouTube or everywhere else is they're always raging against capitalism. And, you always hear people say, well, you haven't tried true socialism. You haven't tried true socialism. Well, we haven't had true capitalism until we devalued our money. Ever since we devalued our money, everything that you're complaining about, the massive hyper transition.
Ever since we got rid of the gold standard,
exactly.
We've been a corporatocracy ever since.
Well, exactly. And you've been devaluing the money. That's not capitalism. Capitalism has to have an exchange currency that's rooted in a standardized set value that never adjusts or fluctuates.
And you can never be too big to fail. That's not real capitalism.
Well, yeah, that's a pin aspect of that. But we haven't had capitalism ever since they took the gold from everybody. And so, this isn't capitalism. I didn't grow up under capitalism. Right. You didn't grow up under capitalism.
And I feel like when I say this isn't really capitalism, it almost puts me in that box of the communists that say, we haven't even tried real communism yet. Give it a chance.
Yeah.
But we've tried real capitalism and it worked.
Real capitalism is what built and developed the Industrial Revolution, funded the Manifest Destiny movement, brought millions and millions of immigrants from the old world over here, supported the industrialization and the development of the new world from an agrarian society to an industrial society to a militarized society into an industrial revolution, into everything that we are now. And then when we reach the pinnacle where we were getting ready to transition into another phase of what humanity could have been in America, they snatched the value basis of our commerce system out from underneath of us, and we have been descending ever since.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I've read about capitalism is it's not just a harebrained idea. Like, sure, it's got a name on it, but it's the most basic, natural thing. Like a tribe, for example, you have something valuable. Mm-hmm. You have an overabundance of. I have the same. Maybe it's fur. You have a bunch of sticks or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then you trade that. And then when currency got in the mix, like, something fungible, like real actual money, it's like, well, I don't need a bunch of fur or sticks, but I need this. Oh, we're going to trade this.
Yeah.
Sticks or whatever. But it's just natural on like a person to person level.
The need determines the value. And the market determines the need.
It's not like these other, like communism, where it's formulating an idea. It just happens naturally.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's not real anymore. Yeah. So
it hasn't been. And that's what's crazy.
When was it Nixon in the late 70s? Or no, was it 71? Was it the gold standard?
Keep going.
I'm pretty sure Nixon's the one that took away.
Oh, yeah. That took, I'm sorry. I thought you asked this question. Yeah. Took us off the
gold standard. Yeah.
And that's what's crazy. You talk to someone who's 45 years old and they've been off the gold standard. Okay. And not under real capitalism their entire life. They have existed under a system of fluctuating currency value, just riding this roller coaster like their whole entire life. Why wouldn't you hate what they tell you is capitalism?
Right.
You've never even experienced capitalism.
Right. Yeah, you're right though. Like, especially the younger generation that for some reason wants to be communist or whatever because they've never read a book or a real history. That's not real communism.
Yeah. Never seen a mass grave.
Right. Yeah. They look at the government being in bed with these corporations and how unfair it is. I agree, but you shouldn't demonize capitalism at its core.
Yeah.
We just call ourselves capitalists now.
Yeah.
But
so that's devaluing a currency.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then which in fact puts the poor further away from access to wealth,
right,
and only gives access to wealth to the extremely rich or the extremely powerful, which naturally causes those two things to gravitate together and then hoard all the wealth.
Right.
And then to further accrue more wealth, they have to water down the value to make $1 million, $2 million.
Yeah. And that's what I talked with Tim about a few episodes ago about the minimum wage. Is people think they just want to remember when $20 was a big deal?
Yeah.
Like, and now it's just like something people get.
Yeah.
Like the whole fast food $20 thing. And people are talking about 40 and 50. Well, the thing is, I heard it explained like this, and now it makes total sense. It's a hurdle to jump over. It shouldn't be the goal for every. So like somebody who's, let's say $100,000 is the minimum that people have to have.
Yeah.
So now the poor people that used to have access to these lower skilled jobs that could still make a living, now the pool is cut way short.
Yeah.
And they're unhireable.
Yeah.
At that point. So you have to find people worth $100,000. So now these poorer people are cut off because they're not worth it.
Yeah.
So are you helping people by just artificially inflating the minimum wage to $100,000 a year? No.
So the problem with the minimum wage argument versus the goods and service argument, because both people are right on both sides. If you increase the minimum wage, it is absolutely going to increase the price of goods and services. Mm-hmm. Or if you increase the price of goods and services, you need a higher wage. That's absolutely right on both sides. It needs regulated. The monetary value, and here's how: you don't regulate the price of goods, you regulate the price of currency, or you regulate the value of currency. Whether they're doing that. Well, here's what I'm saying: your currency has to be guaranteed to be valued at something. Whether you say it's worth this much gold continuously, this volume of gold, or you can always buy a gallon of milk for this amount of money, whatever it is, it needs to be rooted in something.
Pegged, as they call it.
Exactly. Otherwise, there's always this race between the currency and the price of goods and services. So you have right now, and this is being caused on purpose, this hyperinflation of prices right now. This is not accidental. Everybody keeps blaming this on corporations price gouging everybody. And they are. That's certainly going on. But they are price gouging because they're being directed to price gouge. And what's going to come behind this will certainly be wage increases. Absolutely. Because they devalued the value of our currency so much that in the next 10 years, people who are making $50,000 a year 10 years ago will have to be making $150,000 a year to buy the same loaf of bread, to pay the same rent for the same.
Well, the price of a home is up 400% and wages aren't up 400%.
Exactly.
So the people that wanted to live in the same neighborhood as their parents or their grandparents can't.
Yeah. So the inflation of goods and services is just the front of the train.
Yeah.
The caboose, the back of the train, will be the increase in pay, which will catch up slow and drag the economy back with it. But we're going to get to a point where we're Zimbabwe bucks over here. Have
you seen videos from Venezuela when they went down? There was literally money just in the streets because it didn't matter.
It's worthless. Yeah. It's not even worth the paper. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the people that bought their house for a nickel and it's worth $400,000 and they're happy about it. It's like I said earlier, are you happy that your kids and your grandkids can't afford a house like this?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like you've won truly?
Yeah.
Because you're asset rich now?
Yeah. Like, also, when you pass that down to them, if you don't do it correct, they're going to owe so many taxes. You'll destroy their absolute life. Yeah. Right.
The best you can do is, sell it so they can buy a house with 10% interest. I'm not an economist, so I'm just spitballing, but I absolutely hate seeing people online talk about how things aren't that bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, have you been to the grocery store, bro?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And that's the thing with the wages going up. It's like, we're not talking about milk right now. I've heard people say that, like, oh, the price of milk, would you shut up about it? It's like, the people you employ drink milk, bro.
Yeah, exactly. The kids need that. Yeah.
Right.
That's your school lunches. I mean, that's everything. I mean, we're just launching overseas in insane. I don't think you'll meet anybody anywhere ever who is more against foreign aid than me. Just anywhere, period. Immediately, if I was in charge, you wouldn't finish. I'd hit all the buttons, immediately stop. I'd shut all the valves, nothing. I don't care. Boom, done immediately.
Yeah.
Every penny we have would go back into infrastructure repair, funding school lunches, yada, yada, yada. I mean, it's repave our roads. We're sending bazillions of dollars to Ukraine, and my truck is destroying tie rods driving down state routes. I mean, Let's get out of here. These politicians need, but they don't care. They're unaccountable.
Well, they say things like we can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah. Well, look at what your Congress has done in the past 3 years. They've not effectively done anything other than host, 100 fake investigations. But look how fast they got a TikTok ban off the ground.
Right.
I mean,
we're going to get to TikTok, but I'm going to refill my beer.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's time to start installing trap doors in Congress.
We're coming back to TikTok.
Back to the war council.
Yes, back to the war table. All right, we're back. All right, what about TikTok?
Okay.
Big news. It's in the news left and right.
I doubt there's anybody watching this who doesn't know, but the federal government is pushing big time for a TikTok ban, which is pretty ridiculous when every single thing that they wear, drive, operate, make phone calls from, text messages from, make their votes on is all made in China. All their pharmaceuticals, all their clothes, every single thing that their children interact with.
So their big thing is 20% of the company is owned by the CCP, and they are allowed to get 100% of the data. Yeah. Is their claim.
Yeah. So
on its face, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, good.
But like, just to preface everything, on its face, it seems really scary.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we'll talk about Google.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so their argument is that because this is a competitor government, or because this is a what they would define as a hostile government, this is an issue. There's no such thing as any secure technology. Every single piece of data access technology is hackable anywhere. And anybody who doesn't know that by now is ridiculous. TikTok is the single largest domain user spreader of shared information in the United States of America that is outside of control of the U.S. government. If you're living under a rock if you don't know that the U.S. government and CIA control Facebook, control Twitter, control.
That became painfully obvious with the Twitter files.
Oh, absolutely. And with every presidential campaign for the past 16 years, ever since they've been a thing. So they cannot control largely the vast majority of information distribution on TikTok. And that alone is the only reason
we want that data.
You have people smack talking liberal politicians, smack talking the president, smack talking government overreach and everything else under the sun. And that goes against the powers that be currently. And that's why they want it.
Well, so the vote in the House was hugely bipartisan. Mm-hmm. It was insane.
Yeah.
Heard somebody say that this isn't about China. It's about Israel and Palestine, because a lot of the algorithms were pushing pro-Palestinian things.
I think it's part of it.
Right.
I think it's about just to clarify, they try to make the argument that because the access point for this specific regulation is that it forces entities that are adversarially connected with adversarial governments to divest in TikTok, which divests monetary control and adversary governments.
So I was going to ask you that. How would you feel if they just divested to an American company and TikTok still existed?
I think our country needs to stop selling in farmland to China before they decide that we can't have apps on our phone from China. And when they start carrying up, like all of our corn and crops.
And there's only a handful of congressmen, the more libertarian leaning ones like Thomas Massey and Rand Paul, that vote to not renew the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be temporary.
Yes.
Where we spy on all of our own citizens.
Yes.
And they're talking about privacy. They got a lot of nerve to talk about privacy.
I'll put it to you this way. Hollywood and the U.S. government are like this.
Oh, yeah. That's no secret.
Hollywood and the CCP are like this.
Yeah.
So to sit here and talk about the fact that TikTok is your enemy.
Watch the video of John Cena apologizing in Chinese that he called Taiwan a country.
LeBron James or any of them really at all. To sit here and say that our government has concerns with this being over China's influence in it is ridiculous. It's because they have no regulated control over it.
Yeah.
Israel and Palestine is one of many angles. It's just one of many sources of influence. They need that.
Well, the Israel Palestine isn't something they talk about. That's just like a podcast, sub podcaster thing. That's like, well, they didn't start paying attention to it so much. They only talked about it a little bit until they started making them all look bad. And there was nothing they could, what you said. Yeah. There's nothing they could control about it.
Right. Exactly. And now, any type of conflict that is with any of our countries that we have many different arrangements with, whether they're NATO or just contracted allies or whatever. Anytime one of those crops up, the military industrial war machine goes, hello, how are you? Let me put my pretty dress on, and then starts courting any conflict, to start ginning up money, Yeah, exactly. So when our government and CIA and the war machine don't have 100% control over the distribution of that media and that propaganda, of course, they want total control of that. They don't want TikTok spreading information. They don't want other humans on Earth intercommunicating with each other in a way that might share alternative views. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of stuff on TikTok that's absolutely ignorant. I'm not defending TikTok as a platform of wisdom.
I don't like the fact that their citizens are only allowed on it for a certain amount of time, and they don't show fox and horse and wolf people on there. They show science and math and engineering.
Right.
And they flood us with crap.
Yeah.
Which makes our men weak. Sorry.
100% agree with you.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
But I also, anytime this kind of stuff happens, it's under the guise of, we're just looking out for you.
Yeah. So here's my,
it's going to be bad.
Here's my real beef about all this. Like, at the end of the day, I agree with everything you just said. I believe that China, and again, I'm not defending TikTok. I believe TikTok is a dumpster fire.
And we're talking about the Chinese government. Chinese government, not the Chinese people.
Right. Right. The CCP.
Yeah.
It's a dumpster fire. My issue with TikTok getting banned is primarily this. If you banned TikTok but allowed competition to exist that wasn't governed by the CCP and pumping all of this other weirdo, wackadoo, ruin your kids nonsense into them, but was still a form of actual open source communication, distribute as much unlimited information, free source information with no limit as much as you want. Well, I would say I don't care about TikTok at that point in time, but you're going to shut down TikTok, which functions as a funnel for human vomit, but also is the largest medium for free speech and sharing of information at the same time. So you have shut down the distribution of free information exchange. So you have to take the good with the bad. If you allowed something else to exist that wasn't telling all of your teenagers to put butt plugs in with foxtails on them and poop in litter boxes and do whatever else they're doing, I would 100% support that over TikTok. And I would say down with TikTok all day long, but our government will not allow that to take place.
Right.
So
do you think it's going to pass the Senate?
I think that there's a very good chance that it's going to pass the Senate. And I think much like the Patriot Act, this is just the cornerstone for a demonstrous 15 to 20 year plan of Lego building block structured bills that just demonstrously destroy every type of electronic literacy and freedom.
Us as Americans, not us, but Americans will almost all of us will trade our freedom for safety, as we found out quickly in 2020.
It's all fun and games until when you go through TSA in 2 years, somebody has to look at every single picture on your telephone because of the Electronic Freedoms Act of zap, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then, all of a sudden flight travel becomes you have to delete every picture on your phone and every text message you've ever sent. And then in 5 years, that's normal. What do you mean? We've always had to do that.
Right. It's like me growing up, there was times I have flown on a plane without the TSA, but I can't remember because I was young.
Yeah.
But all these things that were put in place for our safety just never go away.
Yeah.
Like the TSA.
Yeah.
Like Homeland Security.
Mm-hmm.
All post 9/11 stuff.
Yeah.
But people they think that's normal.
Yeah. I remember in 2001 when I was a younger guy and I first learned about putting timeouts on, or timeout clauses, if you will, on bills and laws like the Patriot Act, only to find out that doesn't mean anything because they just automatically renew it. And putting that timeout clause, all that did was give you the opportunity to add more to it the next time you renew it over and over and over again without having to build a new law. And that's all they do. The government just makes more laws and restrictions. They never reduce.
Yeah, but most people are like, the Congress voted to renew the Patriot Act, and people are like, Patriot? That sounds good.
And added 5,000 more new restrictions you don't know about.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So the last episode we did with Tim, I was just going on a freaking tangent about that border bill because in the border bill, there's amnesty.
Yeah.
So
100%.
And then watching did you watch the State of the Union?
I want to pretend like I made it all the way through the whole entire thing, but I was working on a project and I was watching on TV and I got super angry because I couldn't focus on the math that I was doing. And I kept getting angry and I was like off.
Dude, I had to, because I was like seething. I'm just like, say something else stupid.
I was, as I'm getting older, I'm trying to work on allowing stuff like that to have so much control over my temperament. And how
do you do that?
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm great at it, because I'm really not.
Your eyes twitching, but you're not saying anything.
Yeah. I feel like last year I was better at it. I don't know if it's because we're coming up on a presidential election year.
That's what it is.
But this year I am just, I'm a little feistier.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, I don't know. It's just because
beating the hell out of roads.
I'm black. Yeah. I'm just out there crushing, destroying tie rods and ball joints. Yeah. I'm just, yeah. I don't know. I'll call it age, or just, maybe I'm just black pilled. I think I'm too black pilled, or maybe that's
what I was going to ask you. Is there a white pill moment for you? Like, or do you just see doom and gloom in our future? Because look, in 2025, so I keep telling people we might have Trump and we'll have GTA 6. It might not be that bad.
I don't think that the United States of America is ever going to get back to what its intended path was.
Well, we'd have to go back to 1912.
I think
before the Federal Reserve was created.
I think we can make changes that delay the inevitable, but
slow it down.
Yeah, that slow it. But I believe that at this point in time, it's inevitable. Cultural issues, just the erosion of our moral structures and functions, our legal systems, just everything that we believe in, all of it, just the compunction of American-ness as a whole. It's been whittled away so much that the structure of that tree is no longer strong enough to survive the storm, in my opinion. Do
you think a lot of it has to do with not having a shared moral framework?
I think it partly has to do with not having a shared moral framework. I think it partly has to do with not having a shared moral framework. I think it partly largely has to do with the unbelievably successful destruction of the American nuclear family.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't by accident.
Yes. The introduction of religious isolation and feminism did more damage to this country than the Federal Reserve, than the gold currency standard, everything. I mean, it it was the Pearl Harbor to the family, except we lost that war. We've not won that war.
Do you think we lost the Cold War?
I don't think we were even realistically fighting the Cold War. I don't think the Cold War was a war.
Well, that's why it was cold, right?
Yeah. I think it was just an excuse to build integral internal 3 and 4 letter agencies in multiple different governments and establish rooted intergovernmental control from people who are not elected and fund them with black ops budgetary compliance systems.
Well, a lot of our federal laws are trickled down from McCarthyism.
Yes, not just McCarthyism, but
I just mean like the anti-communist, which is weird because now people identify as communists and call the right-wing fascist Nazis, which I didn't know the Nazis were right-wing at all. But
yeah, well,
anyway, sorry, I derailed you in 4 different places.
That's a divergence.
Yeah.
That's a whole different paradigm conversation. But I mean, we can get into that. But yeah, no, I think that whether you want to go. Depending on what era, whether you want to go at it from the angle of McCarthyism, whether you want to look at it through the lens of Kissinger's implementation structures, whichever angle you want to look at it, I think the Cold War served no other purpose other than to take 3-letter governmental agencies and secure their realistic entire control over our government, but also other governments. I mean, you have to look at the transition of the CCP, the USSR, into what those entities eventually became. If you really go back and look at a lot of that stuff, I mean, that's really what happened. The only entities that won that war was CIA, the FBI, the NSA, these entities that are
mean the people that keep us safe?
Yeah, the non-elected officials that have unlimited black budgets and can write laws without Congress. Those entities. That's who won the Cold War. Yeah. So
I think if people saw the rules by all these regulatory agencies that have to be followed like their law that was never voted on by Congress, they'd be sick. They would literally be sick.
It stands to fact that the vast majority of Americans don't even realize how many laws restrict them at any given point in time. They're walking around all day long breaking laws and they don't even realize it. And if they did, they would lose their marbles.
And that's the thing about laws. I want there to be a lot less of them, but the ones that stick, I want them to be enforced. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't like the gray area. Like there's still laws in like West Virginia, I think it is, where you can't live in the same house if you're not married.
Yeah.
And that hasn't been enforced in who knows, forever.
Super dumb. Get rid of it.
But it's like, why is it on the books?
Yeah. Every law should have a sunset clause. Every single law that's and that should be retroactively applied to every law in existence. That's a hard argument to make, but you should take the good with the bad because the good outweighs the bad. If you were able to do that, you should put a sunset law on every law that currently exists, and then Congress is forced to revote and actually do their job on the laws that need to exist going forward. So it's not a felony to hit a whale with a harpoon on Sunday or a Tuesday in Ballard, Indiana.
That's true. That is a weekday thing. Like either people or women can't skydive in Florida on Sundays or something like that.
And the ridiculous thing is those laws, those obscure laws like that, they never serve man. When they ever get dug up out of the dust emporium of legal enterprises, they only serve to help law directors or judges pin additional on people and punish people more. So get rid of them. They're not helping you in any way, shape, or form.
Right. And I don't want to make an ass out of myself, but there is a Supreme Court case, and I think it's like something v. West Virginia, and it has to do with the EPA. But the Supreme Court ruling was no rule or law that wasn't voted on by Congress shall not be enforced, or it's a violation of the Constitution. And that's been established forever, but it blatantly gets disregarded like crazy.
At the federal level or state level?
Federal level. It was a Supreme Court case.
Let me ask you this. Do you support state separations? If so,
depends on the day of the week.
Yeah. Or the situation. I'm kind of in the same boat. Depends on what it's over. Yeah.
I just, most of the time, like the radical part of me is like, yeah. And then you think of like the practicality of it.
Yeah.
And you think about like they were talking about California going into 3 separate states and breaking off from the federal government or whatever. And it's like, that would last for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about like people fighting each other.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like a checkpoint set up on I-10 in California, and people stop and be like, "Where's your passport?"
Yeah.
What do you mean? I live right over there. Well, you're not an American citizen.
Yeah.
They'd be like, "Okay, screw this." You know what I mean? So I don't know.
I don't think it would work that way. I think you might see the federal government try to set up.
Oh, dude, I think they would. That's another thing. Before let me just finish this.
Go ahead.
Is it the Colorado River that runs from like Colorado through California? Is that the river where they get all their water, basically?
I'm not sure.
Well, that runs through multiple states. So can you imagine if like California was like, we don't want to be a state anymore, and they're like, you don't get water anymore? They'd be like, hey.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
So states like California would have an easier time, or Texas would have an easier time succeeding without that much government intervention because they're economic powerhouses.
Now,
it depends.
Texas is vastly different from California in their own resources.
For certain, yeah.
Because the water and the grid, they use so much power and water from other places. California does.
So
but Texas is very self-sustaining.
Northern California and Southern California are 2 different countries.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're just 2 different countries altogether.
Yeah.
I would imagine if you look at how Brexit was originally supposed to work, and then it got watered down, this, that, and the other thing. If you could separate from the federal government, but still successfully do everything that the federal government wanted you to do, I would imagine there wouldn't be that many embargoes as long as trade stuff was still set up. But it's not going to benefit the states because they're going to lose infrastructure funding, school funding, all these various different things. And that's kind of what makes that stuff fall apart.
Yeah. I mean, how would we have schools without the Department of Education?
Well, I'm not talking about that. That's a different argument altogether. But I mean, funding to like fix the broken air conditioner or put a piece of glass back.
That's what I love about the state of Louisiana. Have you heard that story? They were the last state to take on 21 being the legal drinking age. So they stopped getting federal funding to leverage them to do it. So their infrastructure is like years behind. Like they didn't have like their roads and bridges were all messed up, and their levy. I don't know about that, but it's just funny how they're like, you know what? No, we will keep drinking and we don't want your money. I love Louisiana. Anyway.
Well, any form of stand up to the government that, I'm a firm believer in equal distribution of if you vote to distribute taxes, I don't think you should be able to put stipulations on those taxes, especially when it comes to funding for children. I mean, how utterly ridiculous to reduce funding for kids and safe access to schools so you could alter the drinking age, which should 100% be a states' rights issue in every single state. That should not be federal mandate in any way, shape, or form.
I think it should be a family issue.
Well, I don't know. Sure, I wouldn't disagree with you, but if you're gonna make me die on a hill because it had to be decided by one entity, I'd say it's a states' rights issue. So at least you have the choice, for as far as freedom goes. But if I'm the boss, I would say there is no legal drinking age. If your kid dies, it's your fault. Start digging a hole.
Yeah.
But I know that sounds crass, but it is what it is. As long as you paid your modicum of taxes when you bought that beer, because I only believe in sales tax. That's it. I only believe
that's how it should be.
That's the only tax I believe. I don't think should be any other type of tax. That way you can choose how you participate in the tax system.
Right.
So, and I think people should be able to vote every 5 years how those taxes are applied to luxury items.
Yeah. That would be the government assuming that people know what's best for them, and they don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they think they don't. I don't want to say they don't.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah. Back to taxes, man. Boy, it just boy, it just
burns me up, dude.
Grinds my gears.
Well, it just, I'm all for giving foreign aid once we're good.
No.
Once we're good.
Zero foreign aid. Nope. We will never be that good. We should.
I agree. We'll never be that good.
Yeah. No, bank it and increase our monetary value because let's say we fixed every pothole and all of our kids are studying in the best schools and our parks are great and we've solved the homeless crisis and all of our kids are getting free lunch and the benches are comfortable again and our public buses don't smell like dookie. Let's say we've solved all these problems. Okay. The rest of the world is collapsing around us still at the same time. And we need to bank every single thing that we have because that economic collapse is going to lead to resource wars. And we need to bank as much of a war fund as humanly possible because at some point in time, we will be defending our infrastructure. And what we should not be doing is building up everybody else's infrastructure and then shifting their manpower towards us to invade us.
What do you think about RFK Jr.? Because you reminded me of something that he said that I think he quoted, but I think it was his grandfather that said it. We should be the shiny city on the hill.
Shining city on that Camelot.
That would be too expensive to attack.
Yes, exactly. So I like 9% of RFK's views. I want to give him credit for,
and it's probably all COVID related, and then he sucks.
Yeah, it is largely COVID related, but also I am a huge fan of his indictment against very poor regulation against our health industry and our food industry.
Yeah.
I think he's done a great job spearheading that. I hate when I had to say that European nations lead us in anything, but one of the things that they lead us in is healthier food, healthier nutrition, and yeah.
I think it was in Ireland.
As I drink my beer.
Ireland. It could be just Ireland, but it might be the whole UK. They classify Subway bread as candy because of the sugar content.
Yeah.
They have a cutoff.
Yeah.
If there's X amount of sugar in something, it's candy.
Yeah.
And Subway bread, where you go to lose all that weight by eating 12 inches of bread.
Yeah. But they also drink 3% beer all day. So I struggle to listen to them. And
what about freaking Germany? And you're trolling.
a little
we're
bit.
We're the ones that get made fun of for drinking light beer.
No, I'm telling you, most of their beer is like 3-4% beer. I've been through there. Yeah.
I don't know. All the dudes I talked to that were stationed in Germany and all these other places say we get made fun of. Americans get made fun of for having watered down beer.
I think they mean flavor is what, and it is true. There's not a lot of that. But back to RFK.
Well, it's like Guinness seems super dark and boozy, but it's like 5%.
Yeah, for sure. Depending on which one you get.
Yeah.
But RFK at heart is a super leftist. And he's a
Kennedy, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, but he's like super leftist Kennedy, like way, way more than uncle and grandpa. I would not, even though I'd have a beer with the guy and I would, because I'm not a partisan person at all. I would have a beer with the guy. I'd shake his hand and I'd say, I really appreciate some of your views, but I don't trust you to be in charge at all because you are a super lefty on so many other issues.
He's a environmental attorney.
For sure.
But I respect him, like you said, for not wanting companies to dump crap in the water.
I don't want to disenfranchise him for that. Absolutely. Where I want to disenfranchise him is that the vast majority of his regulatory suggestions for that realistically don't do anything other than tax the bejesus out of people, not corporations, and don't solve environmental or pollution problems. Rather just create another income stream for the federal and state governments that is just going to get wasted on not doing anything.
Yeah.
So I don't like that stuff. So,
and that's the thing. I honestly think if it wasn't for COVID, he wouldn't have gotten such a popularity with conservatives.
Yeah. I'm super proud of the guy though, for having the courage to do that because he took some arrows to the knee for that. No joke.
And he wrote the real Anthony Fauci and never got sued for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people say that means it's all true. I don't know.
I believe that spreading, that what you just said, spreading on TikTok, by the way, is what really got the movement at the federal level off the ground to start regulating TikTok. Because that's when you really started hearing congressmen and senators talk about doing something about the spread of misinformation on foreign social media, which is only TikTok. That's all they're talking about.
Right.
So, I mean, RFK, you got to give the guy credit in that credit where credit's due. You know,
I mean, I don't want him to be the president, but you have that weird, it wouldn't be nostalgia on my part or your part, because we've never seen a Kennedy be president. Yeah. But just to have a Kennedy as president again would be kind of.
Yeah. I don't want him to be in charge of anything, but if he was a hobo in the park, I would for sure bring him McDonald's and talk to him for an hour.
Well, I mean, like, what if he was in charge of like, what would be the department for heading up Wuhan lab incidents? Is it the State Department?
well, the NIH, I suppose. Yeah. But I don't know if I just think his genes are too rooted in big government.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think he gets in there and then he spreads out his tendrils and he grows and he goes, I need more power to do this.
I was all about him. And then he's like, I think them getting rid of affirmative action in colleges was a terrible idea. And I'm like, oh, and then he had like a terrible Israel stance where he's like, he didn't say bomb the hell out of him, but like, that's what I got from him. I'm just like, oh, you are just a big Democrat.
Non-interventionist is my stance on that. Let them sort it out. They were fighting for 4,000 years before America existed. They're going to be fighting for 4,000 years after we have crumbled and fallen apart.
Yeah.
Let them sort it out themselves.
Yeah.
Why are we cooking our marshmallows over there?
I think that's what people get upset about, because we know what would happen if they sorted it out themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's never going to. I mean, I mean, you could look at it from whatever viewpoint.
Did you see that guy the active duty Air Force guy that lit himself on fire? He picked a terrible week to do it.
Yeah,
because they were talking about peace deals that week.
Yeah, dude, I'll tell you what.
Did you watch the unedited video?
I have, yes, from a couple angles. In fact, I'll tell you, a subject matter in and of itself is how aggressive socialism and liberalism, and all of that, which is so many different things, has infiltrated the military.
Oh my gosh, dude.
When I was in before you, it was just starting to come in under the door.
You got out in 08, right?
08. And
I went in in 10.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you went into 9. Yeah. Okay. So I got out at the tail end of 08. You went in 10. When I was getting out, it was just creeping under the door. You're starting to hear, this, that, and the other thing. And you were starting to see a bunch of weird stuff go on, because the Army was losing so much ground and command staff from the deployment tempo that they were taking that opportunity to promote people who should not be promoted and put them in places where they should not be based on equal opportunity.
Right.
So you started seeing that stuff, and, at that time, you're already kind of used to seeing that in the corporate and industrial world if you came from any work background before you came to the military. But by the time you got in, that was swinging for the benches. 2 years later, that was going to town, and now it's bananas.
Honestly, I think a lot can be attributed to the 2012 Obama.
Oh, 100%.
Because in 2008, you can watch a speech from 2007 of him completely saying that gay marriage is wrong.
Yeah.
And he got all those people that voted for Trump in 2016 voted for him. Not everybody, but they're like, we can get behind this dude. And then 2012 was just like a hammer. Like, we need to implement DEI. We need to do this. We need to do that. When I was in, I'm not saying I didn't see it, but it was kind of like, okay, we're going to take this class. You shouldn't discriminate on somebody for their race, or creed or whatever. And we're like, okay, I got it. And they're like, you shouldn't rape people. We're like, okay, got it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
And that it seemed, I never remember being outraged by it.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay.
Yeah. We were getting those updates when we were coming back from my second to last and my last round and all of that. You know how the Army is. The Army's like, come listen to this thing I got to tell you under orders that we know, and you just shut up and do it. And you're just like, all right, man, we're already not doing this, but yeah, say the things you got to say. And then
just get it out.
Yeah. Don't quit murdering people. Don't beat your wife. All the things they say, whatever.
Don't beat your dog. Don't beat your wife. Don't beat your friend.
Yeah.
Don't beat your friend's dog.
You're just trying to get clocked out by 21:30. You know what I'm saying? You're just like, I might get to eat some cold chicken by the time I get home. That's all you're trying to make it home. Listen to your safety briefing. But it got super, it's super crazy now. So I got, this is crazy because some of the guys that are in some of these places I never thought would be there just because they were so crazy when we were younger together. But, I got guys in some higher up, I'm not going to drop names and stuff, higher up positions now that I served with in my time who are, we chat with on the regular and I go see them a couple times a year. And I mean, it's nuts to see the stuff that they're just peg holing into positions. When I was in, I was built, I was stacked, and I could barely perform some of the job functions that were required of me in that. I'm not trying to get into the meat and potatoes of things, but I could barely perform some of the job functions that required for me. And I was a machine. Like I was in phenomenal physical condition and I'm 6'2", solid muscle. And now we're assigning opposite gender individuals into roles that I could barely fulfill at 6'2", and they cannot fulfill those roles. And instead of doing something about that, they just leave those roles combat ineffective and are now deploying platoons and companies with people in combat ineffective roles anyway, and just pretending like that's not a thing because they don't allow them to say, hey, 5'5", 130-pound person, you're not strong enough to hump the 50 cal or the 240 and its combat load.
Well, dude,
so leave it in the truck and we're going to pretend.
I remember being like, obviously we were a combat unit, so we didn't have women in our like platoons and our units. We did, like support stuff. And I remember being like everybody else. I was like, why do they have to do 10 push-ups and I have to do 30 for the PT test, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they're like, because they're women and they can't do it, doggone.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, Roger.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, shut up.
And like 100% of all, and that's the thing. As soon as you make the common sense argument, everybody's like, oh, you hate women? No, like 100% support you. Some of the best mentors in my life were females, and some of the smartest people I know and most capable people I know are females, but they also can't pick up a refrigerator.
You don't have to hate women to not deny reality.
Yeah. So, I mean,
it's because I like women that I don't want them to be subjected to the men stuff.
But also I don't want combat ineffectiveness. It's too easy for the argument about the leftism creeping in the military to go that direction, because that's the argument everybody makes, but it went so many other directions as well, other than that specific gender bias where, you started seeing our government promoting less than effable alternative lifestyles and then putting that into recruiting commercials and making us the laughing stock of the entire the entire planet. Then you go look at recruiting commercials for China or Russia or wherever, or the French Foreign League, whatever. And, those guys are just the traditional old man-eating crushers over there doing what they're doing. And we're over here talking about our two dads and our obsession with Naruto. Everything else. I'm so glad they've got 2 peanut butters in the MREs. I was like,
I got to show you that Charizard video.
Yeah. I joined because I got time to play Pokemon at the DFAC. But
dude, I'm not very confident in all of our war fighters, and I hate to say if somebody asked me if their kid should join, I would probably tell them no.
I tell everybody no. I haven't told somebody.
Me no when I was joining.
You don't listen. I told you not to do it.
Yeah. They're going to work you to death and you're going to go to war in North Korea. This
statistic needs fact checked because I got it off another podcast. But this podcast,
all right. Sorry, folks. We had some technical difficulties. So we're going to get back into it. So what were we talking about?
Well, we were talking
kids joining the military, right?
Yeah, we're talking about kids joining the military, then a hard transition out of that. But I was just saying this statistic needs fact checked because it's not mine. It just come from another podcast. But it was quoted that 70% or more of youth are no longer considered military ready.
I think that's a little high, but you might be right.
And that's why I said, when I first heard that, I said that's pretty assumptive. I wonder how bad that was. But I did go look that up at one point in time, and there was a chart that they were using to apply to that. And it wasn't just physically, it was academically, and some other stuff was put in there as well. So people that may be considered physically able or not academically able, or due to other legal situations not able to. But that's terrifying when you think just back to the 80s, when almost 88% of people, how bad is it?
It says 23% of Americans between 17 and 24 are eligible.
Right. So about 70. Yeah, roughly 70%. Yeah. That's why I wanted to fact check that. I knew it was close, but yeah.
That's really bad.
I know it's terrifying to think about. It's not just terrifying to think about on the aspect of it's a weakness in our military, because many of those people are in the military already. They're already in, the standards have been lowered so much that they're already in the military. But can we effectively sustain a ground invasion? How low are we willing to let those standards go before we do anything about it? But
the thing is, they're probably already a lot lower than we're used to.
They are substantially lower than what we're used to. I mean, if you consider, the year back in the 80s, the vast majority of graduating males and females were military ready. I mean, unless you had a physical disability or a mental disability, almost everybody that graduated at that point in time was military ready or could quickly become military ready with a small, amount of training. And it's bananas now how ineffective we are. And recruiting standards have dropped so low over the past 15, 20 years, even since I've got out, that they've just lowered. They're letting people into the military now that they wouldn't even let into the recruiting office. When I was in, it's crazy, but yeah, taxes, taxation is theft.
I hate these roads.
Yeah, these roads.
Yeah, dude, that's, I don't know. I don't know what the levels were. I mean, I'm sure the percentage has just been getting lower and lower, which is sad because we've been getting more people.
I used to remember how many people there were and what the effective range was when we were doing the surge in the Middle East. I hate saying that word.
I love that word. I love it.
When I was in, they said it.
Kind of reminds me of Blitz.
When I was in, they said it so much. The surge. And I was like, oh my God, just run me over.
It's a trigger word.
It is. It's a trauma trigger. But I used to remember what it was. I don't remember anymore. But it's just, we are failing on every front. And I say all this because the question you had asked earlier, and all this just kind of goes into how black-pilled am I? If you realistically sit down and you examine everything from every viewpoint, from an outside viewpoint, we are failing. This country is failing from every aspect, it's failing every promise it made to its people, to everything. We can't protect our borders. We can't educate our children. We can't house our homeless. We can't feed our kids. We can't.
Do you think it's on purpose?
I do believe that it's absolutely on purpose. Yeah. Yeah. I think.
What do you think they have to gain?
I think that the same politicians who rant and rave about not wanting to let foreign adversaries have control over our government are happy to take money in their pockets to allow foreign adversaries to have control over our government and just run us down to the ground, because it doesn't behoove foreign countries for America to be a powerhouse. It doesn't benefit foreign countries for us to be an economic powerhouse, a military powerhouse, a production powerhouse, and a manufacturing powerhouse. And what have you witnessed ever since the great dream? All you've seen is us sell off our production, sell off our currency value, sell off our American family, sell off our agriculture, sell off our land, destroy our military. And where's the funding for all of that coming from? Foreign companies, to our politicians voting it down over and over and over again. And I think we reached a point of no return somewhere somewhere 1994, 1995. If you are a student of history and you pay attention, I think realistically, there was a lot of stuff going on right around that time period. And I think that was a turning point where we had the opportunity to do.
Oh, you mean NAFTA?
Yeah. I didn't know how much you wanted to get because YouTube. Yeah. Okay. All right. I didn't know
I'm locked in, bro.
Okay. There's so many different cursor rules with all the different platforms. Yeah. So we really, so other people might say, oh, Ruby Ridge or Waco or yeah. Sure. The agencies were getting wild and stuff like that.
Those were just the ones that were televised.
Yeah, exactly. but real solid, hard overreach. That's when that started right there. And then we've just been harvesting and selling off all of our land and everything ever since then. And, it's hard to tell what the do all end all goal is, but the do all end all goal, in my opinion, is to make sure that we are not the shining city on the hill, because their currency can't be the powerhouse if ours is. Their economics can't be the powerhouse if ours is. Their production can't be the powerhouse if ours is. And if you really want to look at who more than likely is influencing all that, look who is gaining the most from our loss. And that's China.
Yeah. Follow the money.
Yeah. Follow the everything. Yeah. Follow the increase in production, the increase in infrastructure, the increase in education, currency value, the buildup of their military, land acquisition, all of it. As we lose, they gain. So, that's.
And think of all the useful idiots in the middle that don't think about this stuff. They're just like,
China owns our politicians and they own Hollywood, and our politicians are the implementation arm and Hollywood is the propaganda arm. And that's really what it is.
And they openly admit that it's, if the government pushes them to make a movie about, they claim that Rocky was the reason that we won the collapse of the Soviet Union, because people saw Rocky and started wearing blue jeans. I think that's oversimplifying it, but I hear that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Since we're going to wrap up soon, are you going to vote for Trump? Okay. Before we wrap up, what was the one moment that made you realize that you were what radicalized you?
I remember asking you this the other day. Yeah. Okay.
Who hurt you?
I'll tell you who hurt me. All right. I could take a deep breath to tell you this. This still makes me so angry that I struggle to say it. Like I'm not joking. Like this.
Before you finish, is it a war crime?
It is not a war crime.
Okay. So I can
this is
publish
worse. This. No, this happened stateside. So, So I want to openly admit my own, ridiculousness. Even, okay. So everybody in the military, once you've been in the military for a year or two, you're military libertarian. Everybody. It doesn't matter what you go in liberal or you go in conservative, whatever you grew up on, Fox News or MSNBC, you go in and after 2 years, you just hate the government because the military is structured by ding dongs and nothing makes sense. So you have to hate the man. So now you're a libertarian. The roads suck. The DFAC sucks. Schedules suck. Anti-government.
I could do this better.
Yeah. You're military libertarian was what I call it. Some other people call it. I didn't coin that, but you don't really know any other real structured reasons to not like the government other than the fact that the military is the most inefficient thing known to man and it annoys you every day and you're stuck there like jail. So I somehow, my programming coming up was Christian conservative, Pentecostal, the Fox News guy and I, Bill O'Reilly, read the Bill O'Reilly books. And I did, I was a huge history nut and I went in the military, do your duty, Uncle Sam, all this stuff. And I was that guy. And somehow I made it out of the military, not with all of that, but with a good chunk. I would say I was still like 65, 70% I'm conservative. I'm fiscally conservative.
I was raised on the dairy.
Yeah, exactly. Cheese man. And if you said use libertarian, I'd be like, oh, so you're autistic. Okay, get away from me. Get on my driveway.
So you're a liberal that hates taxes. Got it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to name a location because she still lives there till this day. Thank God. I had a neighbor and she is a saint. Okay. She's absolutely one of the best people I've ever met. I help her every single time I get a chance to. She lost both of her children through various medical issues that they had. I won't go into context. This woman is made of love and strength, and she fosters other children to her detriment. She kills herself to foster. And she's not the foster farm mom. She's not the one in there doing it to take money. She starves herself regularly. The neighbors help her. This woman would give you the shirt off her back. She's the Mother Teresa of this neighborhood. And I'm telling you, if you knocked on her door and said, I'm hungry, she wouldn't eat for the rest of the day to give you whatever food she had portioned for herself. Everybody around in town knew this woman. Everybody in town. And they still do. I remember a day when I was sitting on my front porch and 2 police cruisers running hot. I shouldn't say. Cut that part out. 2 police cruisers.
I'll bleep it.
I remember the part where 2 police cruisers with 2 police officers came pulling into, one drove up into her front yard over the curb and the other one blocked her driveway with her piece of junk little S10 that she had sitting there. And they came out. One of them had a gun drawn and the other one had a taser drawn. And I was sitting on my porch across the street from her. Okay. And I was like, what the hell is going on? They took her out in handcuffs. There were children in that house screaming. Or I don't want to say the other neighbor's name. There's another female that lived beside her, is also a friend of mine, also hers. She came over to look after the kids. She is now bawling in fear, not knowing what's going on. They sent 2 armed officers and pulled her out of that house, handcuffed. This woman, who, hand to God, is one of the best people still to this day that I know, for a $37 fucking tax debt to the city.
What?
I have never, till this day, I've never felt so much rage. And you know where I've been and what I've done. And in that moment, I felt myself, I changed. I felt a rage that I did not experience in war when I found out why that happened. I didn't know then. A million things.
While it was happening, we're like, maybe I didn't know my neighbor.
Yeah. A million things run through my head.
Yeah.
She's, what could have happened? And I still to this day feel guilty for second guessing her, but
yeah, but that's extreme.
Yeah. What are you going to do in that situation? And so literally they took her in, whatever paperwork she had to sign, and she had to pay this money and whatever else she had to do at the court. And I remember all of us were like, I'll give you money. She didn't even know about it. She lived at a previous location. They had been sending her correspondence, whatever. Anyway, I've lived through years of war, years of loss, and I've seen some stuff in my time. I've never experienced a degree of anger in my life like how I felt when I saw the law do that to that saint of a woman over a miniature tax debt.
Was that the last time you say that we live in a country of laws? I
gave up 100% of my entire belief structure right then and there. I'll tell you, that made me so angry. It actually made me question my faith in God for a good bit. I was so angry that something like that could happen to somebody like that. I hated for a long time. I hated cops. I hated the government. And I was like I was the bootlicker. I was thin blue line. Like you couldn't give me a big enough flag. And, I still support cops and are my friends. I just don't think the structure. Yeah,
you got half a blue line on your hat. Right
exactly.
there.
Exactly. Yeah. I just think the function of it needs restructured and funded differently. Mm-hmm. And, Man, even like I said, even talking about this makes me unbelievably furious. And I've seen some stuff, and that's not obviously now you go down the rabbit hole, you can't trust your government if they do that. And that just led me down a 20-year spiral through libertarianism and the dark void abyss of government overreach. And here I am today, just dented and bruised from
that's rough, dude.
From the abuse. Yeah. How about you? What was your turning point?
I think mine's pretty slow, but I'd have to say during COVID, I read every one of Ron Paul's books.
Oh, there, Ron Paul get you, dude. He's a dark wizard.
Who got the most votes from veterans in 2008, the last time he ran.
Yeah.
And I couldn't wrap my head because I think everybody has to be I thought everybody had to be in a tribe. Like, you're not being effective if you're not fighting for one team. And like reading his stuff kind of made me just realize that I'm an American,
Yeah.
No matter how much they want to psyop you.
Yeah.
Like, you're an American. And him making me realize that you can love your country and not like your government at the same time.
Yeah.
Was like a big, and so like I'm pretty, I would say if I had to guess, I'd go mainly like conservative route.
Yeah.
And I thought that meant that you had to buy a Fox News bumper sticker and like be in that camp.
Yeah.
But Ron Paul is a conservative doctor.
Yeah. From
Texas. And when you really understand that, you want people to be a certain way, or you think things aren't right. There's nothing wrong with publicly shaming them.
Yeah.
But the government shouldn't stop them.
Yeah.
That's where, when I realized that just because I don't like something doesn't mean that everybody has to be Christian or everybody has to be this.
Yeah.
And you can socially change people.
Yeah.
But the government shouldn't do about it.
Yeah.
That was when that came together for me. And I'm like,
it's not the government's job to enforce anything.
Right.
Except not harming each other.
Right.
Physically or stealing from each other.
Yeah.
Or defend your borders, keep your roads clean and functional, and shut up, government.
Right.
That's it. That's the only reason they should be there.
And still technically they protect private property rights, which is extremely unique to America, which is I believe
the government should be secondary approach to protecting property rights. And I'm on the fringe end of libertarians about that. The first protection of property rights should be whatever caliber I have loaded in my firearm. The secondary enforcement of that should be the government, in my opinion, only if needed.
How do you feel about capital punishment?
I support capital punishment. I didn't used to support capital punishment because I don't support the government. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't believe the government can successfully do anything correctly.
Yeah.
Run anything. And because of this, I always believed err on the side of caution. Mm-hmm. So I still have that belief structure. I still have the belief structure of err on the side of caution. But I've changed because I've witnessed, and you have too, I've witnessed great undeniable evil that's indisputable in my time. A younger me had not really seen that yet. An older me has seen demonstrous things. They're in the context of that, in the context of indisputable does not need to be proven evil. Yes, I support capital punishment. Absolutely. But I believe that it should be completely indisputable.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's where I draw the line. That's
where I'm at.
Yeah. And depending on what's done, I believe every bit of it should be used to generate income. I've always thought that. Some people might consider this brutal. I think kid diddlers, if you can prove them, put them in a ring, make them fight to the death, put it on pay-per-view. I'm serious. Put it on pay-per-view in every state, and everybody will pay a ton of money to watch them beat each other to death or load them into a wood chipper. Whatever you want to do. Feed them to alligators. I will pay. I'll pay that subscription fee myself to watch that happen. So will every dad in the state, and then take all of that money and pay for school lunches.
Right.
And the story. That's what you do. That's what I would do.
like that.
Fund them kids.
And I'm the same way with, I just don't like the state deciding who lives and dies if there's a 0.1% chance that you're innocent. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I only agree with it when it's unbelievably indisputable witnessed.
Yeah.
No difference.
A real confession, maybe even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
But I used to be the same way. We were like, well, if he's guilty, just kill him. But it's kind of, there's a little more nuance to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You give him, it circles back to the TikTok thing, dude. You give them too much power and they'll use it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because if you don't,
they also, if it's undisputable and we all agree that they shouldn't live anymore, it shouldn't take 30 years.
Yeah, you're wasting my money.
Yeah.
I need that money back.
It should be behind the courthouse, most likely.
Yeah, no. Yeah, absolutely. If you've committed a crime heinous enough that you need to be put to death and it's provable, your life either needs to be generating revenue for the people or you need to be killed so you're not wasting revenue of the people. That's my take on that.
Right. That's good to know.
Yeah, you need to offset your carbon footprint.
You're the carbon emissions they want to reduce.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's my take on that.
All right, buddy. Well, before my camera's shut off again, we're at a little over an hour and a half. So
birds aren't real and the moon landing is fake.
Yeah, we didn't get to moon landing. We're going to do a whole episode. I want to have my actual take. That'll take an hour.
We need to get some of that awesome Bollywood footage of that Spider-Man moon landing from India.
I think every time I see my parents, I talk about it and they're just shut up. But you look at old clips back. I'm talking about it. Damn it. You look at old clips and it will say on the bottom, this is a reenactment.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, like, that's weird that they would show it to the public. And then I Googled it and it was like, a lot of footage was lost during radiation. So they reenacted what they actually saw. And I'm thinking, so they had a studio that looked just like the moon and then they said it was a reenactment. Oh,
gotcha.
I was going to tell you before we get off here, because I thought it was funny. Last week I had strep and I was like fever dreaming bad. I was like waking up in sweats, and I know it's weird, but I sleep with an AirPod in usually because I'm listening to a podcast. And it was Tucker Carlson's response to the State of the Union. And so I'm listening to it and it was good or whatever. And I didn't know halfway through the episode, Alex Jones came on like in person, and I had fallen asleep. And I had all these meds in me and I was just like freaking out. So I wake up in a pile of sweat and the episode is still playing. And I wake up and I like kind of don't know where I am. I had like cough syrup. Like I was just like all messed up, covered in sweat. And I hear, they want to take your babies. They're interdimensional demons. And I was like, ripped it out of my ear.
It's the ghost of Rush Limbaugh in the corner. He's naked. He's just over there sweating.
Yes. All right, man. Well, thanks for talking to me.
Sure.
We got a lot more to talk about off camera.
Happy St. Patty's Day.
Yeah. Happy St. Patty's Day to everybody. If you've made it this far, all 5 of you, we appreciate it. So
love you.
Thank you. Have a good St. Patty's Day. Be safe. Don't do anything we wouldn't do. So
drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly.